debate, any discussion about Benjamin Franklin? Yes, sir.
Yes, you mentioned that Franklin was unfortunate with his son and his grandson. What happened with the grandson?
Well, he had several grandsons through William. William had an illegitimate son. William himself was illegitimate, and William had an illegitimate son as well. And so Benny was the problem. He loved his grandsons and so forth. The biggest problem was their getting into trouble with women and you know, following in footsteps of the grandkids and so forth. And the divisiveness between the son and the grandson, who was going to stay with whom, and it created a lot of problems with the family.
So then the part of does the Franklin on the William Franklin side, do they their descendants still live in England?
No, there are some relatives that do live in Europe, France as well. Temple sired a illegitimate child, so you had like 3 generations illegitimacy there. And that was one reason that fostered the tradition that Franklin had lots of illegitimate children. In fact, he only had 1, and the rest of them were legitimate. Yeah, most of the ancestors, I've attended a number of the reunions, the family reunions. We hold it every 6 years in Philadelphia, and they're all from America. I've yet to meet a European descendant of Franklin, but there are supposedly some. Yeah. Yes?
Did you want to tell the Isle Royale story, or you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure what you mean.
I've read that when the U.S. and England were dickering over the exact boundaries of the United States, there was a big map of Lake Superior, and when the British were out of the room, Franklin altered the map and he added a bunch of islands to Lake Superior. And then the British came back in, and Franklin said, you know, if you would just give us Isle Royale, which is much closer to Canada than the U.S., you can have all these other islands. And they agreed, and there weren't.
Yeah, I've never heard that story.
That's why.
Yeah. I will tell you that Franklin really wanted all of Canada as part of the deal. And there's a lot to be argued for that as far as culturally being very similar. And it's ridiculous to have a border at all between Canada and the United States. But that was one of his wishes that was not fulfilled. But no, I hadn't heard that story, so that's a new one on me. Yeah.
Is your book in addition to the first one? You got to buy 2, or is your book covered?
No, you can buy the original or the completed autobiography. It's volume 1, volume 2, and together it's the complete history from his birth all the way to very close to his death in the book. And as you can see, the original autobiography is about 120 pages, and the completed autobiography, and this is very true of his life. If you look at the papers of Benjamin Franklin, the 50 volumes, the first 4 volumes cover this period. The rest of the volumes cover this period. So you can see our editing had to be pretty deft to reduce the huge amount of paper. But it's very interesting. I've read just a few snippets from Franklin's own views, but you do get a really different picture, in my opinion, by reading this in Franklin's. Again, this is all Franklin's own words. And the historians that have read it have told me that it sounded like Franklin wrote it himself. So I think we did a pretty good job of weaving together his autobiographical writings. And just to give you an example, 1776. If you look at the papers of Franklin and look at the section 1776, tragically, there's virtually nothing in there. And so I'm saying, Man, how can we complete Franklin's autobiography? We have nothing on the most important year in American history, 1776, because Franklin was so busy he didn't have a lot of time. Here's what happened. I discovered a long letter that, of all people, Arthur Lee wrote to his brother Richard Henry Lee 2 years after the Revolution. And he finally said, Dr. Franklin and I finally had a free moment, an evening together. We had nothing to do, and we sat down, and Dr. Franklin waxed eloquently about what had happened in 1776. And he writes it down. Dr. Franklin said, Dr. Franklin said, Dr. Franklin said, page after page. Guess what's in here? All I did was change Dr. Franklin said to I said, or what have you. And it's just a beautiful description of what happened in 1776. And so that'll be something that I think a lot of you will find of great value. But you can buy either volume if you want. Most people buy the volume because it's a real nice combination. Yes? Is there an e-edition? I don't know. Go on Amazon and see if an e-edition is available. That may be the case. That may be the case.
Do you have any idea what, or any theory about what happened to his papers from 1776?
Well, his papers, a lot of his papers were lost because they were not burned, but destroyed by the British when the British took Philadelphia after he was in France. So he was very embittered about that sort of thing because he was meticulous in keeping records. So that's another reason why there are definitely some things that are lost. But we were able to fill in from beginning to end his views on religion, his views on women. I think you'll find the chapter in particular, An Ambassador's Life to France, really very interesting. Any other questions? Well, very good. Thank you all very much. I'll be right down here.